Awesome. All righty. And Rufus. Oh, you saw the chat there, Joyce.
Yes.
Righty. According to Apple, it is 2:03, and I call this March 7th, 2023 special meeting to order. And as a public service reminder, these meetings are always open to the public. They're meetings of the Board of Selectmen to conduct the ongoing business of the board. If you'd like to offer comment, there's an opportunity on the agenda to do so. When commenting, please state your name and title if applicable. If the meeting is interrupted due to disconnection, we'll do our best to resume no less than 30 minutes from the time of interruption. We'll go into public comment. I see Therese, you have your hand up. Did you want to make a public comment?
Yes, I'm just wondering if it would be possible to put me earlier in the agenda because I need to meet the school bus at 3:15.
Sure.
Thanks.
Why don't we do you now?
Oh, okay.
So that would be, sorry, right on the first page, lines 58 through 71-ish. Yep. So Therese, the $9,000 for the fireproof file, that's a recommendation from the state level or a requirement?
It is a requirement. It is not a recommendation. We have not been in compliance. I'm not sure for how long, but we do not have a fireproof file. And by state statute, we need a fireproof file to house our voter registration cards.
Okay. It would be, I think I'm pretty confident that you could get a fireproof filing cabinet for less than $9,000. But if you want to leave that number in here, if you can just work with Joyce and maybe get a hold of Quill or see what you can find on the other normal, regular vendors that we use. But I think you can probably sharpen up that price a little bit.
I have spent a lot of time looking that there's not a whole lot of companies that sell fireproof files, but I'm certainly willing to work with Joyce to find if she can find one.
Okay. And also, I imagine that with all of the changes at the state government level with all of the remote working, it might be worth a look on the state surplus website as well. So do you want to talk to us about the salaries first?
In what way? Which salaries were you wondering about?
There's an 11.75% increase in the salary line in the department.
Yes, I'm not really sure that it's that much, but there has been definitely an increase. And did you want to take this to executive session?
No.
No, because we wouldn't be talking about performance, just discussion of rates and salaries is not eligible.
Well, we were asking for a 4% increase. As far as the time is concerned, we needed more time. And if you, I mean, we can go in further into that if you would like, but then you get into job performance.
So where I'm looking at your sheet and the notes say includes 4% for both the two categories, the registrars and deputies and workers.
That's correct.
Guess we'd have to go back and look at why this is 11.75%. Okay.
So by my calculations, so 4% would be $894. So this is 1,732 above that.
Yeah, I don't know why that shows as 11.75%. Are there other questions? I don't want to monopolize the
I do want to remind you that we did have an extra referendum in there that was not included in our original proposal last year. The December referendum was not budgeted for.
okay.
And that affects obviously the number of hours worked by both the registrar's line as well as the workers line, but it also is the supply line, the postage line, the note, well, not really the notice line, the election refreshments line.
Those are all individual lines.
Yes.
The registrar and deputies, Jean,
Yep.
it includes 4%.
Yep.
And then underneath, it says that they're asking for 4 hours per week each plus 125 additional each. I don't know what 125 additional each is.
I don't think you have this year's budget in front of you. That was last year's that we asked for that. At least it's not what I submitted.
Oh,
That's not on the sheet that I'm looking at in the folder. In
okay. Then I'm on the wrong
the folder.
Sorry.
Yeah, I only see, I'm gonna just check this map again. So oh, I see, in your worksheet, the 24, this said 24,442 includes 4%. So you're asking for beyond the 4%. So you're asking, and that 7.75% more is hours. Is that what you're saying?
I am hopeful, and I don't know this for sure because this I've only been on this job for 7 months. I have not completed an entire year. So the cycle
Right.
is not complete yet. I
Right.
am hopeful that we will be able to adhere to the $24,442
Mhm.
for the top line. I'm not sure that we can, but it is my hope.
Okay. And can you talk about the cell phone? Not, it says $600 for a phone. I assume that's a separate,
Well,
system, right?
yeah, well, the cell phone, I've been told that that is what is typical for people who have cell phones. And since we only have a 3-hour budget of time during the week, we cannot get all of the work done because we can't get all of the work done, but besides that, we cannot have people calling us back within those 3 hours. It just doesn't work. People may not, I may put in a call to the state and they may not be available in those particular 3 hours. It's the same thing when I call for somebody to come and repair something. And they don't necessarily call back on Monday afternoon between 1 and 4. So then I have to give my private number, my personal
Right.
number out.
Right.
No, I was reading off the right thing, I think, earlier.
Right. That was fiscal year 23.
Right, so they've already added hours. 23.
Well, I don't,
Over and above or not? How
How
many
was
extra
that?
hours are they asking for? Therese, how many extra hours is your salary line reflect?
I have not broken it down. I don't have the hours with me at the moment, the specific hours. You could divide the 24,000 into the amount of per hour and come close to it. Our office works different than most offices. We have office hours on Monday afternoons from 1 to 4, but that's not the only office hours that we have. We need to be there for often over 20 hours during an election day, sometimes 22 hours. And that's just for election day. We have to set up prior to election day, and we don't know what's going to happen on that day, what's going to go wrong. Is something broken? Do we have to call somebody to come and fix something? Prior to that day, we need to test all of our equipment, and it's great if the equipment is all working, but that's not necessarily the case. So it's really difficult when we have a small budget for time to tell you exactly how many hours we need. This is my best guess.
So this, the difference in this, the payroll line for registrars and deputies, that's representative of the 4% increase across the board. And
Yes.
the remaining 7.75%. That's for more hours. That's not for yet more, another increase of the hourly rate.
Oh, no, we're not looking at anything more than the 4% for an increase of hourly rate. It's how many hours we need to get the job done.
Okay.
I mean, if you're interested, I can give you a detailed list of what the duties of a registrar of voters are. Not at this moment, but I will get it to you in writing if you would like it.
Yeah, we can certainly send the, the job descriptions and everything. But I just wanted to make sure that I was understanding that correctly. That it wasn't it wasn't an additional increase on top of the 4%, that it was for additional hours.
Exactly.
Okay,
Thank you for clarifying that.
sure. Anybody have any other questions? Rufus?
Nope.
None?
Just going back to the file for a minute.
Mhm.
Therese, you said you had researched and that was the best price?
Yeah, it's very limited to companies that have this.
So how many different companies did you research?
Well, I looked at Costco, I looked at Quill. I'm trying to remember all of the ones. I looked on Amazon.
And is there a certain size that? is necessary?
Yes, I don't, let me see if I can, the approximate size of what we need to file is 8.5 by 6, somewhere around there.
Feet.
And so that makes a small drawer. We can't put it in a large file drawer because they would just fall over. So in addition to having the file cabinets with, I think it's 6 drawers that's in this file cabinet. So in addition to those 6 drawers, we also have to buy the dividers for those 6 drawers.
I mean, you said 8.5 by 6. That's, I don't understand those dimensions. 8.5 by 6 what?
That's the size of the card that we're looking to file. It is not a sheet of paper.
Oh, so
A
that's
specialized size for the
card,
the
8.5 by
registration
6.
cards.
So the dimension of the actual cabinet that is fireproof is what?
Let's see. I sent it in your packet, but let's see. Okay, so I was incorrect. The size of the card is 9 3/4 by 5.
And how many cards are there?
Well, let's see. At the moment, we have approximately 2,165 active voters. In addition to that, we have inactive voters. In addition to that, we have voters that are in the off file. These need to be saved for a period of time specified by the state of Connecticut. In addition to that, we have files that are purged by the state of Connecticut, but they need to be held on to for a certain period of time. So the exact number, I don't know. I would guess maybe 8,000.
So, and so you're getting something with 6 drawers.
Yes, I believe it's 6 drawers. Yes, 6 drawers. The base price of the 6 drawer file cabinet is $6,875. In addition to that, we need the dividers for the drawers.
Okay.
I just quickly Googled filing cabinets and Walmart, a three drawer fireproof cabinet is $4,000. So if you need,
Yeah, it's a very specialized size that
Sure.
it's a very unique
Absolutely, yeah.
specialized size that they need.
At the top of my head, I'm just looking at this, and I deal with these all the time because I deal with data that must be protected by the fire as well at school, and so yeah, it's about right, the price.
Do we have any more questions for Therese?
When did we become? When did we know that we were not in compliance? So we've never been in compliance with this fireproof cabinet?
Well, as I said, I've only been on this job for about 7 months, so I don't really know how far it goes back. I know that this has been for some time, but I don't know what the time is.
Mhm.
And as far as I know, and I mean, I don't know for sure, but as far as I know, these files were never held in a fireproof cabinet. But I don't know that. I'm just guessing.
And one last question, what is the make of this cabinet that you chose?
It is Fire King.
Okay, thank you. I have no more questions.
Okay.
Jean.
Glenn,
Neither do I.
thank you, Therese.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, now we'll go back to starting with planning and zoning. Ty.
Here.
Awesome.
So I think I explained everything in my narrative in pretty good detail, but if you have any questions, or do you want me to take you through it?
Yeah, why don't you take us through it?
Sure. So for the most part, tried to hold the line. As you know, we upgraded the clerk's position to the assistant administrator's position, and that was previously approved. So part of the increases reflect that, which was already approved. And then I kind of took a look at the legal notices, which are required by statute, and they're really kind of killing us with what it costs to, satisfy that. And I did make a recommendation that we should open up the fee ordinances and kind of eventually go over all of those to make sure that we're making back the money that we're putting out to do these notices. But right now, this is just to cover the cost. And then really the big ask is the online permitting system. So there is a demand for it in town, kind of coming in late in the game with regard to technology in the land use office. Right now, we're working on a system of ledgers and an access database that is in need of an upgrade. And we've got a staff that's willing and ready to, forge ahead into future technologies. So this is a good time to do it. We interviewed with, I think, 4 different companies. I kind of went through probably 10 of them and then interviewed 4 different ones. And the one that we thought fit best for Kent is CROG supported, and it is being used by Washington and New Milford and Salisbury and Woodbury. And I've reached out to all of those land use administrators and building department personnel and found out that they seem to be pretty satisfied with this program. It also gives a lot of ability to grow. So you could kind of implement it in stages and take on different things, not just land use and building wise, even town wise, if the rest of the town felt like integrating something else into it at some point, that would be a possibility. So yeah, I don't know. They take care of 46 towns in Connecticut. I think that's pretty impressive. It's OpenGov. That's the one that we're recommending at this point. We did interview, a couple others that didn't seem like they were up to par with this one. There was another one that was okay, but this was, it was Joe, Donna, and myself, and we all agreed that this was the best choice.
Glenn Rufus.
So Ty, you said other departments could use this same software?
Yeah, so I mean, you would have to do an upgrade, but it's open to, they don't just do land use and building. So say down the line, and I'm not suggesting this, but I'm just saying, say down the line, Darlene wanted to use it for dog licenses or something like that. There's that ability to adjust to different departments should, or if you wanted to use it for the transfer station to, there's options. It's not just strictly, it's a big enough company that takes on a lot of municipal permitting possibilities. This one fits land use very well. I know our website is Civic Plus, and they also offer a land use option, which was more expensive than this, and it did not, they're not as advanced, so they're in their like infancy stages and getting into land use and building. So obviously we chose the one that fit us the best.
Okay, so other departments may be able to use this. Have other departments showed any interest in using this or no so far?
I haven't discussed that with anybody else, but it seems like I've heard of, different departments, possibly wanting to go a little bit deeper in the permitting, whether it be transfer station or dog licenses or, those kind of things. I've heard the scuttle about it. But it's, those are not my
Sure.
departments.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Do you know if they offer any sort of, and I hate to use the dirty R word, but any sort of regional approach where we
Yes.
could combine forces with Washington or a Salisbury?
Well, that's exactly what I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
That's okay.
that's why they're CROG supported. So the CROG actually 3 years ago, actually chose they interviewed all of these permitting systems for land use, and they chose 2 of them that they would support, and they got together and got a discount. So this is one of the 2.
So this is CROG, meaning through the central region. COG,
Right.
Right.
Exactly. So
Out in
that's
Hartford.
why, that's a good push. That's the reason why you're seeing like Washington and Woodbury and Salisbury and New Milford, they all, got in on this plan, this deal. It's the other permitting system that the CROG supported, the other of the 2 I actually worked with in Southbury, and I think that this one is superior to that one.
Yeah, I was really talking more about a concept where either CROG or our COG or somebody would take on being a hub and then saving out even more money. Towns could come onto that one central system versus we're buying a license or we're subscribing to a license, Washington subscribing to a license, Woodbury, all the different towns are subscribing to their own licenses. I don't even know if they have a model like that
No,
they can do.
again, I'm sorry to interrupt. No, land use isn't really built that way. So zoning regulations, as you know, vary from town to
Right.
town. Requirements vary from town to town. So the system actually has to be built for Kent based on how our regulations read and our approach to, zoning and planning and all that.
Yeah,
So it's really not, it's very interesting, OpenGov, how they do things. So they have an option where they actually teach you how to build your own system in a sense. So they'll build the whole thing for you if you want to pay them to do that.
Mhm.
Or like in Salisbury's case, they chose 2 of their main forms and then kind of copied off of that from other towns. And they'll allow that. So I have reached out to like Abby and Salisbury. And that was the approach that we were going to take to save some money, was to work off of what other towns have done and not reinvent the wheel,
Right.
but still it needs to be catered to what Kent does.
right, customized to, yeah. Yeah, it's similar, it seems, to the electronic patient care run form world, where you have a library of, you can take Omaha's form or, a million other forms from across the country that users put into this library, and you can pull down and use them as sort of a template to build, to then customize your own.
Yep.
Which makes a ton of sense. And I guess, the elephant in the room is the cost.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
I understand that. I think that this is the future, though. I mean, I think that there's no way that, continuing to do it on a ledger book is probably, 20 years.
Yeah,
We're 20 years too late.
yeah,
in
yeah.
that sense. So eventually you're kind of behind the 8 ball already with regard to technology. And like I said, some of the things that, we're using and it's working, but it's going to need to be upgraded. So, like the access database is going to fail us.
Right.
If we get it upgraded. So there's going to need to be money invested, and it seems pointless to invest money when there's a better way to do things.
Right. And I think at the end of it all, we're going to be able to provide much better customer service, customer experience to people. And it's going to streamline how you guys do your processes, and gives a lot of those sort of ticks those boxes that we've all been looking at as far as what's been happening from the pandemic, and how, we need to be shifting and sort of morphing to suit the needs of
Yeah,
our
I couldn't
community.
agree more. I mean, especially for a town like Kent, that is not all, there's a lot of part-time residents. So you're gonna serve your part-time residents and
Right.
full-time residents that much better. The
Right,
contractors, the title searchers, the real estate agents, and just our staff. And it's gonna, take away all the filing. It's gonna take away all the postage. And I think that even, Joe, the way that he does his job will be more mobile. He'll be doing inspections on an iPad rather than like a yellow pad, yellow scratch
like
pad.
clipboard.
People will immediately be able to see the results of their inspections. I think that it just improves communication through the whole process. There's really I mean, it's a difficult, I'm not gonna fool you. It's a difficult process to start a new system, and
Yep.
I think this is a great time because we've got a great staff and we're all willing to do it.
Yeah, I think
know-
this was the first conversation you and I had, Ty.
Yeah,
Just
and
about moving this into the world that we live in now. Sorry, Rufus.
Ty, do you know when New Milford, Woodbury, all those towns got together to move into this new system?
yeah, so they didn't get together. They all did it individually. So Woodbury's been on there for quite some time. I think they're probably the first ones. Washington is very recent, and Salisbury is very recent. Just months in. So,
So they didn't all get together and.
no. So
No.
3 years ago, the CROG chose 2 systems that they were going to endorse. And by doing that, they provided the towns with a discount. But over the course of the 3 years, those are our local towns. But like I said, there's 46 towns in all Connecticut that have chosen to go with OpenGov.
So were we as a town ever approached by them to
They
join?
gave a presentation to Jean.
Okay,
So they're the most robust, probably the most well-resourced cog, I would say, in the state. And they are sort of the leaders for all of the other cogs. And they do things like this, where they'll go and because they have the so many big towns and cities in their region, but they'll go and do research on a widget or a piece of software or consultants, and then they'll get that volume pricing from those, do that work that maybe the smaller cogs wouldn't be able to do or be able to have access to. And so they're able to bring these special pricing discounts to the whole state.
so we might have gotten a better deal had we signed up earlier.
No,
No.
no, I mean, they're still, in their contracted price.
Okay,
Ty had also mentioned the possibility of changing the fees, and that would also offset some of this extra expense that would need to be put forth in order to go ahead and change the way that things work. Because I know I'm here 15 years, our fees have not changed in that 15 years. So it's a good time to do that as well.
sounds good.
So what's
I think the other thing to remember too is if we don't go with the permitting service, we're going to need to find some kind of IT professional that can come in and can upgrade the access system that I use, because Yucatec does not support access. And I'm in the process right now of having some problems using it. And so we'll have to find someone to come in and do that, which would be an additional cost. I think Ty had mentioned that earlier, but that's not something that we can go to Yucatec for.
right, but I think even Microsoft has retired that product like 6 years ago.
Absolutely. You're
Right.
absolutely right.
Long time ago. That's
Yeah, and
probably
that-
why Yucatec doesn't do anything with it. Once Microsoft starts to get rid of that stuff.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of a dangerous, process to rely on retired software
Right.
to, manage our entire building department. That's how the building department runs and does their permits, is on stuff that's, has not even been upgraded in 6 years.
And did they have, not that you've gotten into this detailed conversation, but it's sort of a big piece of the conversation. Have they let you know if they can take those data files in Access and merge and map them?
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
good.
so we've had that conversation about dumping the access files in, and it seems like it's feasible. However, there's a fee associated with that, and it's a
Right.
pretty hefty fee, and that's not included in this price, and I don't know that it's necessary because we do still have the paper files, and we can still keep the access database, and we can convert that to an Excel spreadsheet and have it forever if we ever have to look back at the records. I mean, ideally, we would dump it all into the new system, but that's a lot of money, and I don't know that that's something that's worth the cost.
What is that? Just a ballpark?
I want to say like 15,000.
Yeah, I think that's what I remember.
That sounds about right. Yeah, there's sort of, two sides to that conversation, having it, doing it and just getting it done.
Yeah. I'm
That's
not,
a
I'm
different-
not opposed to that. I was just trying to be frugal.
Yeah. Okay.
I think Darlene has her hands up.
I just wanted to put a clarification on record. The dog licenses are online to make purchases through our land record system. So when dog license season opens, we do have that availability for people to purchase their licenses, just to put that out there.
Can you switch them, Darlene, to Open Go?
I don't know that because it's not been anything that I've needed to inquire.
Okay,
I would be more than, I don't have a reason because the program that is implemented is working and has been working. It was actually a really nice response to COVID that our land record system quickly put together an initial program just so that we could support people not coming into the building and provide them access online. So I'd be more than willing to look at it if it ever became a concern or if there was an above and beyond need that they couldn't provide.
okay.
Yeah, so with respect to the fees, looking at the ordinance, the history note, under building code permits, it says adopted at annual town meeting November 6, 1998, effective January 1, 1999. And it looks like some of the other ones were that was repealed in 77. But it looks like 99 was the last time that the fees were looked at. That's a long time ago. 23 years.
Yeah,
Do-
I mean, I did a comparison between, the different towns and the different
Mm.
fees, like something like a special permit, which encompasses, several legal notices. We're charging $210 and like Roxbury is charging like $350. So there's a big difference with what other towns are charging for the similar product, and it's not to get money from the applicants, it's just to cover the cost
Right,
of the
right.
application.
Yeah,
And I think building at 20 and 6 is one of the lowest in the state.
Yeah, I mean, like Roxbury, for instance, for building is 40 and 11. So again, not looking to, charge the people of Kent unnecessarily, just to cover costs.
right. Okay, thank you. Anything else? I mean, we're gonna keep you keep your deck chair here, but anything else specifically on planning and zoning?
Oh, did you want to talk about the training for possibly for wetlands?
No. No. I mean, I don't have much more to add. Do you guys have any questions?
There's the clerk line is going up. I just noticed 27, almost 27.5%.
That's so that's the new assistant land use administrator position.
Oh, that's the piece for, gotcha,
Right, so that's
But it's-
already been approved. It's just
Gotcha.
catching up with the budget.
gotcha. Yeah, the notices are, and there's a bill again this year to give options for municipalities, but we'll see where it goes. There's a lot
Yeah,
of
I mean-
what's going on there too.
I'm totally in favor of that, but I think that the
Newspaper
newspapers
lobbyists
must
are
have a
not.
good lobby. Yes, exactly. Because really, I think that's where they're making their money now.
Right. Okay, so let's keep going over to inland wetlands. Flipping the page.
Yeah, so there's really, it just kind of follows suit with the notices, going up slightly just to, accommodate the charge, but don't really have too much of a change. When it comes to conferences and training, both Donna and I are attending. So that line is doubled, but it's, not a huge amount.
And now will inland wetlands, will that sort of category benefit from the software along the way, along the workflow way?
So the higher level permits, so the cost that I'm presenting to you right now does not include the higher level permits like the inland wetlands or this, special permits that go through zoning. But it can eventually, those are more detailed and complicated permits, and it's more detailed and complicated building of the system. To start, I think the approach to this is absolutely just the building department does the majority of our permits. So that is going to be covered 100%. And then the residential zoning, driveway, commercial zoning, those applications that can be signed off in the office, those are the kind of things that the system that is being proposed will cover currently. The special permits, the wetlands can be down the line, but that's not something, those require hands-on regardless. So the benefit of that is not as much. Ideally, it would be there for the people to apply and see, but as far as there's always large plans that are associated, there's so much associated with those. The plan reviews, the commission reviews, that it's not as practical to integrate that right now.
Okay, so would those be living still outside in the old way? So we're still not quite solving that.
No, because so those, the way that land use works is those are all the zoning residential permit, the final permit, all those work their way up to getting that final permit. So they're all attached in one way or the other. It's just the application process will be outside the system. And honestly, I don't know that there would be a great benefit for having it in the system because of how detailed it can be. It's usually a matter of an applicant having, or their engineer having to come in and review the plan with the office. And, you have to look at these, a lot of specifications. It's not an easy thing. And ultimately that wetlands, like once a wetlands approval happens, it's associated with a zoning permit. So it is connected, and that final zoning permit will be in the system.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. And the software tool will enable you to generate reports and
Yes.
Which is
So, and
very
also accept credit cards should the town give the authority to do so, which I think the people really want.
yeah.
And
For sure.
how great would that be? I mean, right now we accept checks and cash, and
Yeah.
we're not in a check and cash society anymore. So it's terribly inconvenient for people.
And I'm sorry to stick on this, but since we're here talking about it, I know that if you go to get a building permit and you have outstanding taxes, you have to walk back down the hall. And
So, no, it's all linked up.
Okay.
They'll start with, the way they build the system is they start with the assessor's mapping.
okay,
And then they work jointly with the databases that the assessor and the tax collector use. They have a sharing component that they have an agreement with.
great.
So then every night it'll be updated to show, what the tax collector has received. So if there's something delinquent, it'll come off the record the next morning if somebody pays for it. Otherwise, there's a stop in the system that doesn't allow you to proceed with your application until you pay your taxes. So somebody could sit at home and go to submit a building application, realize that their taxes haven't been paid, and actually pay their taxes at that point.
That's great.
So it kind of helps everybody.
Yeah, just the efficiency that's going to come out of it. And again, I think one of the biggest pluses is for you all,
Yeah.
creating a workflow that is, in theory, in concept, pretty paperless, but also just like leveling up our customer experience. And it's, we can do this.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty important.
Yeah, and I think eventually it's going to have to happen. It's just the way the world is working.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. the. I'm sorry, Rufus Glen, I don't mean to grab the whole discussion. I'll move off of that. The health went up 33%. Do we know why? Because the percentage, the sort of across the board percentage was just under 9.1.
Are you saying,
It went from
health?
employee plus one to family.
Say that again.
The policy went from employee plus one for the former land use administrator to a family plan.
Okay, that makes sense. Wasn't on the budget here. Rufus Glen, any other questions?
No, I'm good.
Me too.
Okay. ZBA.
yes, so the only, real again, we're talking legal notices when we talk about ZBA, so that there's an impact there, and ZBA is also included in the planning and zoning commissioners. They require training, 4 hours of training per the new legislation. So I think I, did like about $85 per commissioner, which I think is a great bargain considering these are valuable volunteers, and I'm honestly behind the legislation to train them and train them well. They deserve it and we deserve it. And I think it's good for everybody to make sure that everybody knows what they're doing and what their job is.
And that cost covers having someone.
Yeah, so like Steve Byrne, Attorney Byrne with the Connecticut Federation of Planning and Zoning, he does a lot of, he'll do sessions, he'll come in and talk about anything that you might be struggling with. Obviously, we have a great land use attorney, Mike Ziska. He also offers that kind of training. There's conferences out there that they can attend. There's a lot of free stuff as well, but a lot of the commissioners have already taken the initiative to go through those Yukon Clear classes. And that is very like a low level kind of training, which is great. But I think that let's up our game. Let's, take advantage of the fact that they're required to put in the 4 hours and make it useful hours, so that, we all become better.
Right. Rufus Glen, any questions?
No?
Alrighty. Is Gio with us? Or are you guys going to cover, y'all going to cover building?
Yeah, I could cover building as well.
Okay.
And again, not much changes. Really, other than
Permitting system, that's really it.
yeah, that's that's kind of outside, yeah, the permitting system and a new assistant land use salary was increased, but other than that, asking for the regular cost of living increase that everybody else will be getting, hopefully. And that's really it.
Can you remind us what the state education fund is again?
So that actually comes right, so that's taken from the permit fees that are collected, a certain percentage of that.
26 cents.
It's, yeah, on the dollar, 26 cents
Yeah,
on the
the
dollar
dollar.
is collected specifically to fund that education fund. And then Joe and all his other building official components gather together and, just like what they're proposing for land use, they train them as well.
Oh, so it's for building official education.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
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 Got it. Okay. Glenn, Rufus, any questions? If not, we'll move on to fire marshal 190. Where is that? 257. 247.
So I did reach out to Stan to let him know he was on the agenda. I don't see him on here. He had said he would try, but his schedule is a little bit
Yeah,
You see,
complicated.
he might be here already.
You think so? All right. Don is gonna check to see if he's here, but he said he would try. He does his own budget, so I can't really speak for him.
sure. So there's a program in there under supplies, and that is for the new building codes. And it's a subscription style. Who's that just came on? No, nope, not him.
Yeah, he's not here he's not in the building yet.
So I do want to just, you know what, we can, so as far as you know, he was planning to be here.
I provided him with a link and he said he would try to get on. He's got normal office hours today,
Oh,
so
right.
his hours start at 3, so maybe, we can grab him if you move on to somebody else. Maybe we could grab him for the end of the meeting if he shows up.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Because there was some detail in his worksheet that he wanted to discuss briefly. So. All righty. Thank you both. I will, let's see, where is that? You guys under tie? Possibly, there we go. Just moving the deck chairs around. So we'll add Darlene. We'll go to town clerk next. Darlene, do you have video capabilities? Oh, there it goes. And Therese put the dimensions of the fireproof file cabinet in the chat. Hi, Jar. Want to take us through your budget?
I gave you supporting documentation as far as the narrative that was requested.
Yep.
So I didn't know if there were any questions based on what was provided.
I'm just looking at the lines. Everything is pretty much flat in the budget. There was a decrease in the health, right? Oh, there was an increase. Oh, the pension, but that's just part of the
Proportional.
right, the whole algorithm of benefits. Rufus, Glenn.
So Darlene, you in your letter a while ago, you said you were part of it was the 2,500 according to this document. And I didn't get any document. I don't know what you were referring to.
It's the management review document that's been referred to when other salary increases have been discussed and or decided upon. It was a management review done under a previous Board of Selectmen administration.
Darlene, do you know where that was in the um the management review? Because I could not find where there was where that increase was talked about.
So in the Board of Selectmen minutes, there was an increase that was provided to me that year. But if you look at the range that was implied in that document, they stayed a percentage below the moderate to maximum range that they could have extended to the town clerk's salary. And I guess the other that goes with this is that I chose one way of requesting this, and it kind of goes to all other individuals that have put forward a request. There's been no guidance provided on what type of documentation I was to put forward to make this request. So I think that this is only one option. You can't rely on the POG survey because ultimately we found discrepancies in that survey. I don't know any other way that you would like me to put forward my request. If it's to use other ways that those requests have been put forward, other individuals have stated that they put in more hours. These past years, due to the increase in elections and the processes that have been put in place, I continuously support the registrar of voters and the elections. The initiation of absentee ballots during the presidential election, that has been an increase as far as hours go. But to say on an average weekly basis, no, but to say that there's an ongoing increase of maintaining phone calls or emails after hours and or during weekends, that is done.
So at the current 60,592, that's in the current fiscal year. That hourly rate at the 30-hour work week, which is what the position is budgeted for, is at $38.84.
Correct. So if you want to look at that hourly rate compared to the in-house hourly rates that are also being paid for full-time salaried individuals, or if we want to start comparing all hourly rates, which was put forward when discussed with the tax collector's salary, again, look at that hourly rate to what was being put forward for other positions. I really am not being flippant in that, not understanding what I'm to provide you as my request. I can comfortably say that in past years, when a document has been put out with the budget that said, this is not the year to request, I have abided by that and not put forward a request for my town clerk's position. This year, I am comfortable in my request based on the progress of the office, the support I provide, whether it's for the registrar of voters and or the guidance that I provide and try to continue to use to maintain the relationships with all the departments in the building. And for the, again, the years of experience for the last 3 years, the ongoing knowledge and learning, I don't receive, this position does not receive a salary increase if in the event I become a certified town clerk. That is not, so where other positions in this institution get $1 an hour if they finish a certification of a class, or they get a $2,500 increase if they finish a certification. That has not been implemented for an elected official. I can tell you that I attend most conferences, unless sometimes there's conflict in schedule. I attend any election webinars and all other, whether it's FOI or any other type of education that I can continue to support my office.
So Darlene, the $2,500 that you mentioned, did that happen in fiscal year 20? Because that year was a 9.9% increase.
No, it wouldn't have been in 20 because the management review wasn't done in 20.
Okay.
So the management review, Darlene, is the October 2018
Correct,
by Randy Frank and Lee Palmer.
correct.
And you were referring to the like the schedule that they created for the hourly. Because this one only has for that, it's a little hard to understand, but the schedule has nothing in the entry, mid, max, and then it says, and then it has current. Right above you is tax collector. And one might assume that those were being treated in the same category.
I believe they were. I
Okay.
think there's a notation down at the bottom. I don't have that document in front of me, but I think somewhere's in there, there's a notation.
Yeah, it still doesn't make it very clear about if that's the same.
Again, we all found fault in that document also.
Yeah, I'm
including-
not. It was before my time, so I don't know, I'm just making an assumption that because you can see there are categories.
Correct.
So let me see if I get this. So this happened in October 2018. So it was in fiscal 18-19, and then fiscal 2019-20, because of this management review, some
Portion.
salaries were adjusted.
That's correct, which was, and I may have stated incorrectly when I said no to you, Dean, when I was hearing what year, but you're right, fiscal year 1920, a portion of that based on the management review, which I was included, but it was a portion of what was discussed at that time.
So the increase of 9.8% that particular budget year was based on this.
That's correct.
But what
It
you're
inc-
saying, is that there was more in there.
That's correct.
And that more is and what you're saying that's 2,500 that should have been in there is what you're saying?
Well, I tried to not muddy the waters. What I also tried not to do was to, what was the COLA increase on the amount that it should have been from the year 20 to 21, 21 to 22. So I did take a flat rate of $2,500 so that we didn't have to put forward a formula to be broken down. Because other requests have also been asked based on a flat rate, not
Yep.
based on a percentage.
And I see COLA in those years. 2019 was 1.6, 2020 was 1.3.
Mhm.
So COLA was quite low in those years, just looking that up. And then it jumped to 5.9 in 2021. So okay. So Darlene, when this report came out and when the previous Board of Selectmen were talking about all this, you brought your concerns to the board?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Okay.
There were one-on-one conversations that were held with I'm not going to use the word all because I can't say all, but I believe the majority of us had an opportunity to speak on behalf of that document.
Okay. I'll, I have seen those minutes and all of that, but I'll go back and review this as well.
Rufus, any questions? Thoughts, anything?
No,
I have one question. This is the second time we've heard from an employee in town hall of past longevity, 21 years in your case, right, Darlene?
Yes.
So do we have a written policy in town hall for considering longevity? I mean, is there, for people who have been there 20, 30 years, is there consideration for
No,
nothing?
as far as I know,
Okay.
there's no years of service bonus or stipend or anything like that.
Okay, so there is nothing. Has there ever been a conversation about that with Board of Selectmen? I mean, Darlene, you've been around certainly longer than I have.
I don't know that it had anything to do with longevity.
Longevity, okay.
I guess in sake of that, this is my opportunity to speak. Another fact that I'd like to bring forward to the Board of Selectmen, and I know it is my choice to run as an elected official, but one of the benefits that I don't receive as an elected official, even because you're bringing the word longevity forward, I cannot bank any of my unused time. So over the years, if I was an employee of the town, I would have been able to bank those hours and then receive those monies as a payout if in the event when I left the town. That's a side note, just because I believe Dean's aware of that. But so there is a benefit that I don't receive as a full-time quote employee of the town of Kent. And it's just because of how the handbook is written. I don't know that the town could not look at that and rewrite it, but I want you to be aware of. So that is one of the things that I forego by being a long-term employee / elected official of the town of Kent.
Okay.
Alrighty, any other questions?
Nope, that's all I have.
Thank you all for your consideration.
Thanks,
Thank
Dar.
you.
Thank
thank
you.
you, Darlene.
We'll move to Joyce.
Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm just moving the deck chairs. Oh, I can't spotlight you.
So I'd like to begin by just saying how uncomfortable this process makes me. Management review and salary review was on the agenda for over a year, and we're asked to present this in 15 minutes at the 11th hour of a budget process. I just find that a little bit unfair. And to piggyback on what Darlene said, we really weren't given any kind of directive on what information to submit. So what I did was I looked at my position and all the other positions in town hall, and I don't really fit in any category. I'm full-time, but I'm not a department head. So I don't make the same level of pay, yet I feel that I share the same level of responsibilities. And unfortunately, I feel that in comparison to some of the other administrative assistants in the COG salary survey that was incorrect, I too am paid in the lower end of it. And In my narrative, I explained all that, and I would hope that you would consider the salary increase to bring me up to the same, actually, it's the lowest level of a department head, as well as consider changing my title to office manager to better suit what I do. Any questions?
One, Rufus?
So Joyce, do you feel similarly about the management review study of 2018 in October?
I do. It was, to use a term that's been tossed around, it was cherry picked, and there were things that were done, and then there's things that weren't done. I did benefit, and I did receive a increase during that. But if you go back in the beginning of time, I'm one of the only employees in town hall that was hired originally at about $5,000 less than my predecessor, and that was never made up. So the management review basically put me back where initially my predecessor would have been. But I feel that I've proven myself in my position. And again, I feel that I deserve to be considered as a department head and paid accordingly.
So there was a, just to briefly address the comments about folks weren't given a directive. I'm of the mind that there's a lot of folks, there's a lot of people in this building who have been doing municipal budgeting for decades. And I think that you come to the table with your best effort and your best story, and you're trying to tell the story of your budget. And I think that that's what we all should come with. And I don't think that we need to give lots and lots of directive and instructions. I think that when Barbara sends out the budget worksheets, that there's a fair assumption that we're all, coming to the table with our best effort. So I don't know if more directions or different directions would, I'm not sure how it would be helpful.
To clarify, what I mean is, during the few times that we did discuss salary reviews and management review, it was titled different things. There was a point where you talked about COG salary survey, but then it was deemed, well, some positions are very statutorily driven and you can compare those. Other positions like mine are very different in different towns. And so the COG salary survey was kind of ruled out as an across the board way to look at salaries. Hourly, to me, is an antiquated way to look at salaried people, because every person on this call and every person in this building can tell you that they don't work the number of hours that are in the budget. So to look at a salary and break it down into an hourly rate is an injustice, and therefore that's not an effective way to accurately look at how somebody should be compensated when they're salaried.
Right.
So
but that's the only way that we can convert the budgeted number of hours. So there's a budgeted number of hours. If
but when's the last time that we looked at the number of hours that are budgeted for people, and what mechanism do we utilize to ensure that people are working those hours?
Right. So then the next part of what I was going to say, there's a couple of components to this, to fixing this, and one is accountability. But I've been told many, many times that salaried employees should not and will not fill out timesheets. So if that's the way you account for the number of hours that you're working. And that's how we are able to tell, are we completely undervaluing and is this department, is this position in dire need of an assistant because this person has now put in, 60 hours, even though if they're budgeted for as a 30-hour employee. So those types of things are what's, as you go through a year, that's going to reveal a big pinch point. And that's something that we as a board would look at to say, wow, look at all these hours that this person has had to put in. And in their narrative justification, they would say, this is why. And we would take that, the accountability, and we would make adjustments for that.
I tend to agree with Joyce that looking at an hour, trying to break it down into posted hours is, for a lot of these positions, is very antiquated and inaccurate way of trying to come up with a compensation that is fair.
But we have no accountability system. So short of any
No, we don't.
accountability,
And
we
we
can't.
have no evaluation system, and we,
Right.
overall, if you don't have those things, you come down to, is the job being done? And sort of a yes or no. I mean, that's what you're left with. So, job's being done. That's where we want to kind of basically look at and then figure out if it's if things are fair.
Mhm.
Joyce, I have a question. So, I've got the salaries through the years here. 16, 17 is 38,000. 17, 18 was 39. 18, 19 was 40. And then this salary review came out, this management review, and from 2018 and 19 to 2019, 20, it went from 40,000 to 51,000,
Mhm.
25%. So what I just heard you say earlier was that you started off 5,000 less than your previous than the previous person in the position. So do you think that in that year, in order to make up for that, should there have been another 5,000, or should that have happened before that year, or what do you think?
In my opinion, it should have happened initially after a 90-day review or what have you. It didn't. The management review came and it addressed the problem, but in my opinion, not completely. Also, I feel that in addition to the management review, my job has changed over time, especially through COVID and where we are today. I've taken on a lot more responsibilities, and I think that my classification should change. I'm an island out here. I have nobody else in town hall that has the same thing that I have, being, a salaried person, but not being classified as a department head. And my narrative explains why I feel that I should be a department head. I meet the criteria.
So I'll ask the same question I asked earlier. So so in 2019 and 20, when all of that came out, did you voice also your displeasure with the previous board and discuss?
I did.
You did. Okay.
I did.
Okay. I'll go back and look at those notes again.
Unfortunately, those minutes aren't going to reflect a lot of that. What happened during that management review is there were meetings with the board and each employee that were in executive sessions. And then when they came out and we had our public meetings, not everything that was discussed in those in my case anyway, what was discussed in the executive session is not what came out in the minutes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
For point of reference, I did speak to the Roxbury administrative assistant, and I would have to say that her job description is one of the closest ones to what I do. She does a lot of ancillary buildings. She, however, does do payroll, which I do not do. I do track time off for the highway people and the other full-time employees, but that was a position that was relatively similar to mine. And her current salary this year is 77,000.
Any other questions? Comments? Alrighty, thanks, Joyce.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you, Joyce.
So we have a number of other Am I still muted? Can you hear it? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I got a notification that it said the host muted me.
I just want to let you know Stan is on the call, Jean.
Oh, great. Hi, Stan. Let's see.
Hello,
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
So we wanted to just go over, do a little snapshot of your department. Let's see, let's go back. I know there was a little bit of a change in your hours that you included on your narrative. Do you want to just give us the executive summary of that?
Yes, I took the some of the hours that I work and reduced some of them and transferred them over to my deputy, who is Tim Limbos. He'll now be able to work 4 hours a week at a rate of $25 an hour.
Okay, and are you, the shift is just
The shift was just so that I could give him more work. The town of Kent is very fortunate that they have someone, number one, who is interested in being a future fire marshal here. There aren't very many towns that can say that. He lives in the town. He works as a paid firefighter and paramedic, but he's also been for years a member of your local fire department here in Kent as a member and as an EMT. And in trying to keep him interested so that eventually when I leave, he will be able to take over that position, which would work in with his scheduling as a paid firefighter very well.
so this is sort of a transition.
The start of a transition, yes, yep.
Okay.
Note 3 is that we added a computer codebook program as opposed to buying somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,200 worth of codebooks.
Paper, old fashioned.
Paper codebooks, yeah. Yep.
That are no good as soon as the new ones come out.
Well, the tough part of that is all of the NFPA codes that we use and the International Building Code Council of Codes that we use are writing Connecticut versions, but they're not in print until the month of May.
Oh.
And the codes went into effect back in October.
Wow.
And so you either had to go out and buy books that were not Connecticut versions and then take all of the amendments. There was 80 pages alone in the building code of changes to the code books that you would then have to write in and copy over into your new books, or look up every time you went to look in the book. You'd have to have another sheet of paper to go and try and find these.
That's crazy. And so I would assume part of the software program is that you get automatic updates when they're,
Yeah, every time there is a coach, every time they make a modification to the codes, the company that we buy these from, which is called Upcode, updates their programs automatically.
Okay.
And it's as I say, it's a $30 a month charge for the program, which is far cheaper than going out and buying the books and
yeah,
uh,
and then having to throw the books away or
And
take
having to
pages
throw-
out or however that would work.
Yep. Well, the good part about it is they have all of the years. So I can go back and go into the 2018 code, which is the last code we had in Connecticut, which used the 2015 versions of the international codes. And those are also all available under the Connecticut versions to us.
Wow, that's pretty convenient.
Yep.
Alrighty, any questions for Stan?
I'm good.
Glenn? Okay, thank you. Thanks, Stan, for hopping on. Appreciate
Yep.
it.
Thank you very much.
So keeping on our 2-hour time frame, there are a number of categories that I think that we can have our consensus check off on. And starting with the Board of Finance, which would be line 72, I think. Yeah, the total is on at the very, very top of oh, this would be, I'm sorry. Oh, no, that's right. Yeah, the Board of Finance, sorry. The audit at the top of the page threw me off. Everything here is flat, except there's the 2 actual decreases because they decreased the number of meetings to 15.
Looks good.
Okay, so are we in consensus agreement that we're checking the box on that
Yes,
category? Great. Conservation, Joyce, they were invited and they said they didn't think they needed to come. Line 131. is where it
That's correct.
starts.
agreed. They don't need to come.
And they had a 0% increase. Are we in consensus agreement to check them off?
Yes,
Yes.
244 Historic District. Did you hear back from them, Joyce?
I did not.
Their line was at 500, remained at 500, or we had
it's fine.
consensus agreement there?
Yep. It's good.
One that we should talk about is contingency, which is 246.
What, insurance? When was the last time you went out to bid for insurance?
This is Kerma. This is our liability insurance. This is not health insurance. And that, Joyce, when was the last time we went out to bid for health insurance?
Well, we have a consultant that checks the rates every year. So we didn't actually switch companies in a couple of years. So I'm not really sure what you're asking.
So that consultant, what does she do? She works for, is it Kona?
That's correct.
So that's the pool that we're in.
That's correct.
And remind me again, who's in our risk pool for that? Sorry don't mean to put you on the
I'm
spot.
trying to finish up the
Sharon-
phone call.
Now Sharon, oh, sorry.
Sharon, there's a library up at Hotchkiss that's in it. We're in it. It's exactly 50 people, which is the minimum that we need.
Is it also the town of Salisbury?
Yes,
So 3 towns and the library, I can't remember what that library is called, but it's the library at Hotchkiss School.
yes.
I thought there was one more. There's not one more. I don't know why I thought 5. So I've been sort of beating the drum. I think we should look at and I know it's tough because we have, this pool that we're in. If we were to pull out, it would cause the rest of the entities to go under that 50 member minimum. But there's the state partnership plan, and talking to other towns and other schools, they're saving money and they're getting really good coverage. I think we should sort of at least swing one leg out of that box and take a look at what other options are out there. How long have we had them for? This same consultant?
The problem with switching to the state is the union contract. They have a clause that states equal to or better than. The way that they have health insurance right now, they have a 0 out of pocket. The state insurance plan will not offer that because that's not a high deductible plan. That's a PPO plan. And it would be very difficult to administer that if it was even possible.
Difficult to administer.
A 0 out of pocket. Therefore, it wouldn't be equal to or better than for them.
I think it's worth at least finding out how much savings the town could get from switching over. Or are there other, is there anything else out there that would give us the equal to or better than? And I think we're in the final year of the contract, so that might be, the time might be right to do the research now, and then when we're getting into the next bargaining for the contract, then we've already done all the homework instead of having to do it right in the moment when we're trying to negotiate a new contract.
That's true.
So,
But these things, it's worth checking every few years to make sure. You look at what New Milford did to the paramedic thing they pulled out, and it's kind of
right,
screwed everybody else, so.
right.
But I just think back to in the 90s when we switched, we looked at insurance and ended up saving the town quite a bit of money.
Right.
Because nobody had gone out to bid. Nobody thought that, the local company would do right by the town, and
Mhm.
it turned out that we could have gotten it for a lot cheaper for a long time, but.
Mhm. So going back to the original discussion, the insurance is what comes from Kerma. And that's something I don't think that Kerma supplies that insurance to probably 98, 99% of the towns in in the state. So are we in consensus agreement to check off the insurance line 245?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
Thank you. Going to Torrington Area Health Department, which I.
Now, you talked about contingency.
Yeah, we can go there if you want to.
Contingency pretty much has always been set at $10,000.
Well, Barbara said it used to be higher than that. We can,
I
we
was
can ask her
wondering-
to do a look back to see what it was, but we well exceeded the contingency line just because of the elevator. Was that 25,000? Joyce? She's still there? Yes.
I mean, what is our projected total? I don't,
Total or total contingency?
no, total budget is what?
Is 14,854,151.
So some of that's Board of Education, but say
Right.
it's
The Board of
$7
Selectmen.
million plus. $10,000 isn't,
Is,
I mean, percentage wise, I think it's too low.
I agree.
And you don't know what's gonna happen.
Right.
And we've scrambled to even try to come up with money for the Swift House to get that started, things like that. So I would think we would at least double that.
Yeah, Barbara, I'm pretty sure she had said at one point it was, for many years, it was 30. And anybody, Darlene, Debbie, anybody have any recollection of that, by all means, jump in. So yeah, $10,000 on it. So it's just under $5 million for the BOS government side is 0.02%. So what would we like to do with contingency?
So wait, can I just add? So it used to be, you think 30,000, but in fiscal 20 and 21 and 21, 22, both of those years, it was nothing. Because there's just a hyphen in both of
Yeah.
those.
That's what it looks like. Joyce or Darlene, can anybody shed any light on that? We can also have Barbara. It would be a Monday discussion because she's not back till Friday. But I can go back to her with a couple of questions to get some history if you want.
I
Absolutely.
can probably go downstairs and look at some of the figures from the 90s when I was on the Board of Finance, but
Yeah, I can go online on the website. and-
let's maybe
Get a little
keep this
historic.
open, but
Yep.
Let's
Yep.
keep it open. Yes. But I'd like to know, what was it? Why was it taken away? Did it ever go above?
Okay, we can ask those questions.
Absolutely. And have we used those monies this year, that line?
Elevator,
Oh, sorry, the elevator. That's right. That's right.
correct, Joyce?
That's correct.
The elevator. Okay.
Torrington Area Health Department. 240. 323. They had a 1% increase. A 1% decrease,
Decrease. Yeah.
apparently. So are we consensus agreement on this?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. And another one was LCD, but we're having a special meeting this Thursday night to finalize our budget. So then we'll get that number probably Friday. So that can also be a Monday. I mean, it's not going to go up a lot at all. We had a meeting, I think it was last Thursday, and they wanted to just run some more numbers, but it doesn't look like it would be a huge increase. They've taken on, multiple police departments. They've taken on a couple more towns, so they're the revenue is increasing, but obviously they have to increase dispatchers, and the state share is, I believe, staying the same. So there's a little bit of fluctuation, but I don't anticipate it's going to increase by a lot. Not going to be like the paramedic, that's for sure.
Good.
Alrighty, so we're at 350. And I think so that covered the ones that were on this sort of schedule that Joyce sent the board. Do we want to, so cost isn't really a discussion, that's membership fees, CCM, the same thing. There's a couple of other items on here, but I
Where
think
are you? Where'd you?
I'm just looking at the overall, all of the departments on that summary page, which is the very, very first page. It's almost like the cover page of the budget. That's sort of how I keep track of what we're checking off and what hasn't been checked off. But I can get a list together of what's left out to you all, and then we'll just we'll use Thursday as these topics, and then we'll have another we have to have just a sort of wrap up discussion, and then we'll plan for Monday a fairly short meeting with that LCD number and history numbers from Barbara on contingency, and then getting to.
Okay,
All righty.
good.
So according to Apple, it is 3:50, and I would accept a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Thanks, everybody. Good discussion.
Thanks.